Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Spawncast episode 391. We're missing Sean tonight. I think the Knicks are on or something's happened. I don't know. Something's going on over there at Casa del Sean. But I did bring in MVG. He's back. MVG's with us.
Look, great to be here.
How's it going, MVG? It's good to have MVG here.
Doing well.
We also have OJ's returning too.
Yeah, I'm here. What's up?
We have OJ here. We have Celia.
Hi, happy Friday or Saturday.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We can't let people know about the behind the scenes magic here. Yeah. And then we have Evan, of course. Evan's with us too.
Yep.
And today we actually have a guest. We tried to have him on a couple weeks ago and we're trying to sync back up, but we got it figured out. He's back at home now. Good mic quality, everything. So we have Broken Games from Weapon Wheel joining us tonight. BG, how we doing?
Doing good. What's up, everybody? Yeah, back on good Wi-Fi. Glad to be here.
Yes, sir. So we actually have, I did put down a lot of stuff in the notes. It was already commented on, but we'll go through a bunch of it as much as we can anyway. So we do have the Xbox, their marketing campaign, their handheld, some of the PS5 Pro sales, and then some of the Black Friday stuff going on as well. So I did pick out some of the mailbag questions for the Patreon. So if you want to take part in that, every week I put up a new thread over on the Patreon for the different shows we do. You can drop comments or questions in there. And then I decided to also pick 4 comments from last week's Spawncast. Of course, it's always fun going through those. So I've grabbed a couple of those that we can respond to as well. So first, I am going to start off today with a bit of a reminder of how old we're all getting with the PS4 officially today. I know, Celia, you did your best. Tell people it's Saturday. But technically today, the PS4 is officially 11 years old.
The OG Xbox is 23 years old today.
The OG Xbox 23. That's even worse. That makes me feel. I mean, something about the PS4 though, but yeah, their OG Xbox being 23 years old is kind of ridiculous. But I brought up the PS4 because it is hard to believe we're 11 years away from that initial release. So I don't. If anybody remembers picking it up on release date. I remember trying to stock those things in our store. That's what I remember. But any memories of that? The release?
I remember buying it, unboxing it. The video's still up. I remember it. I was in college, and I remember my guy I knew, like I had to go to class or something, I think, and he was just decided to skip class, so I let him just like play my PS4 while I had class.
Someone else got to play your PS4 on day one before you did.
Yeah, he was playing
I wouldn't let that happen.
I was like, all right, whatever. I got to go to class. I can't play it anyway.
I mean, I remember, I think the first game I played on it was Killzone, but I don't know if anyone played anything different day one.
I didn't get it at launch. I got it. When was the Last of Us bundle? I got the Last of Us bundle.
That was like the following year, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was. I think I got it in 2013 or 20. I think I got it in 2014. I might have got it in 2014 or 2013. I don't remember when, but yeah, I didn't get it at launch. But I remember watching the what was it, that tech presentation where they showed Killzone Shadowfall, and I'm like, wow, this is like one of the best looking games I've ever seen, or like one of the best. Like this is going to be cool. Like it looked dope. So I thought that was my first impression of like the PS4.
That's right. That was the weird year for Madden where it was Madden NFL 25. They had to get like all strange with it. That's right. Just looking at the launch.
Was that year? Oh
yeah, they had that 2K14 for NBA. Then we actually had NBA Live 14. I stopped
buying Madden after 2010. I think 2011. One with Troy Polamalu and Fitzgerald on the cover. That was my last one.
Yeah. PS4, Xbox One had that graphical jump that everybody's looking for now. I'm like, y'all never gonna get that again. That's over.
No, that was the last note. I feel like that was the last real noticeable one.
Well, what about PS1 and N64 to PS2, GameCube?
But like the last one we had.
The last one.
Okay.
We're not gonna get another one. Is what?
Okay, not gonna get another jump as big as that. Yeah, probably not. My bad.
Are you saying the 360 to the one? Because I didn't really feel like it was that impressive.
You didn't?
No. Like the one was like a 720p machine, man. Like I think we're kind of remembering things a little bit. Like, don't get me wrong, games like Rise, Son of Rome, and the Forza game, and was it Dead Rising 3 came out for it, and Killer Instinct. There was some really good shit there. There was quality there, but every time they would they do analysis on it, it was like, this game's running at 540p, this game's running at 720p. I was like, is this really?
I think there was a pretty wide range MVG. So I think, what you're saying is true. Because some games, just look like, it's kind of like a 360 game, right? But then other games, it was like, it was like Uncharted. The jump was like, whoa, that's a huge jump. Even if you compare like Uncharted 1 or Uncharted 2 to Uncharted 4, big jump, So I think there's just such a wide range of
what game was crazy.
But I see what MVG is saying though.
If you want to go look at a good comparison, MVG, Far Cry 4 on the PS3 and the 360 looks disgusting.
Oh yeah, yeah.
You'll fire that up and look at it, and it's just
but I mean, there's definitely exceptions. Like at Titanfall's another one on the 360 compared to the one. I mean, the difference is
the game ran on the 360.
Yeah, there was a Titanfall on the 360 as well.
You know who did it, right?
Shout out to Blue Point. Making dreams come true. But I just wanted to recognize that another moment in gaming to make everyone feel old. So let's just go into what games we've been playing. We'll go around kind of quick because this can turn into a pretty serious topic sometimes. I'll save mine for last. But let's go to our guest here, BG. What have you been playing this week?
I mean, honestly, I've been pretty busy. I'm about to start Dragon Age. I haven't been playing anything prior to that because like I said, I was just away on a cruise and just getting back to normal life this week. Wasn't really playing much. So it's going to be Dragon Age for me this weekend. That's all I'm going to be playing.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a little over 20 hours in that at this point. I'm just kind of going through it feels like I'm going through the motions now to get through it, but apparently people have said that the last part of that game is like the best stuff BioWare's ever done, which is shocking to me because they made like the Mass Effect series. I saw
Gene say like after his 80 hours, like it got better or something like that. I'm like, I get what he means, but that's kind of
that's cool though. If they can top like the last part of like Mass Effect 2. Mass Effect 2 is like still, it's like ingrained in my brain, like how great that was.
Sometimes I wonder because the games come out and you mentioned this, the honeymoon phase is in, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like you look back on it after a little, I don't know. I'll see. I'll get there eventually. I'm in kind of rolling through Dragon Age as I have time.
Nice.
But let me see. Let's go to Celia.
Still playing Metaphor. It's a longer game, so I'm almost at the end of it. So I will be fiending for another game to play really, really soon. It'll probably be it's a good question because like there's a few that I want to play, like Life is Strange, and there's Zelda. There's also like the Mana game I still need to work on. I don't know. I have a huge lineup. I'll get through them all.
Okay. How many hours are you in a Metaphor right now? I am trying to gauge how big that game is because I keep looking at it on my PS5.
John, it's like 100-hour game.
Oh
yeah,
gosh.
Like I'm in like I have to check my thing, but like 80 hours because like I'm nearing the end. I'm doing the last quests and all of that.
If you want, I mean, you can put it on easy.
That's what you're playing too, right, OJ? I saw you post about that.
Yeah. I'm at the end. I'm nearing. I've got like about 15, 16. I'm stuck on a boss, like an optional boss thing. I'm not stuck, but like I'm just getting cooked a few times. But I'm playing on the hard difficulty, which makes things like they get extra turn icons and stuff. So
yeah,
but yeah, I'm 130 hours into
Jesus.
it. Yeah, I'm 130 hours, and I've enjoyed. Like, I'm not tired of the game at all. Like, it could keep going. And I'd be like, cool. Like, it's definitely like my game that I like a lot. Like, I like.
You think we'll get DLC?
I don't know if they're gonna do like the whole thing that they usually do, like the whole like Persona 3 Reload or like the whole Royal. They might do that. Some people think that they might just do some DLC. From what I understand, the game wraps up it wraps up, but there's room. Obviously, it's a fantasy game, so there's always going to be room to do different things in the game. But yeah, I hope. I mean, if it gets DLC, I'll be there. If it gets like an expansion, I'll be there day one. Metaphor is phenomenal.
Is this on the PS5 you're playing it?
Yeah, I'm playing on the PS5. I got the VR thingy set up.
You use PS5. that PlayStation Portal there?
My Portal, I don't know what the hell's wrong with it, man. It just doesn't work as good as other people's. And I have a good, router, and I have a hardwire, and I have good internet and everything. It just, I don't know. So I just play my theater room that I have here. So I just play in that. And yeah, it's great. Metaphor is, like I said, Celia's been playing it. It's 130 hours in, and I am really enjoying it. It's got some of the best voice acting that I've heard ever. Sorry, guys, my phone's going off. It's got some of the best voice acting Best voice acting, great the combat systems, the job class system, Celia. I know you love that. Job class system is so good. And, and I know Jason Schreier talked about that. We talked about how it's just kind of like Persona, just the same thing. But the more you get in depth with it, the more you go, the more you start finding out little small things that are so different with the game, especially the job class system. It's awesome.
I'm really enjoying
cool.
it.
Yeah, really cool.
I'm 7 hours into it, so I'm getting there.
It really picks up. It picks up probably like around like I'd probably say like once you get to like the second or third area, once you start
like 20 hours in.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Once you
start liking it around the 80-hour marker.
You can like it.
How dare you?
I liked it at the beginning, but once you get to the point to where you kind of do this thing where you're like doing something with the big boss, that's supposedly the big boss in the game, that's when it starts getting really interesting, because it's like, oh snap, now you're kind of doing this, so it gets really, really, really good after that point, and then just continues to just keep on going up from there.
MVG.
I finished Call of Duty Black Ops 6 campaign, beat all that. I was in New York last week. Yeah, it was good. I was in New York last week, so I didn't really get to play much. But
here comes.
I have been playing Star Wars Outlaws, because it's the only game that I have on my PS5 Pro that I actually haven't played before, because everything else I've already played and finished. So it's like I ain't running through any of these games again just to see these games look better. So I'm playing Outlaws. It's fine. It's all right. It's a solid 7 out of 10.
I mean, just talking about this game, and it reminds me of the meme where the kid's having fun and like the dad kicks the door in. So that's just every time MEG is talking about this, Sean comes in and is just like, this game is terrible. What are you doing?
It's not terrible, but it's not great. It's middle of the road. It's Ubisoft open world stuff. It's all right. I mean, there's some good moments in the game. It doesn't. I know we're going to talk about the Pro, so I don't want to talk about how it looks on the Pro or anything. But I don't think it's really enhanced in any way on the Pro. Just it still has a lot of jank associated to it. But I also have Dragon's Dogma 2, which is another game that I'm going to start here pretty soon, because again, that's another game I didn't play when it came out. So I'll be checking that out as well. So I'm kind of just trying to clear the backlog at the moment a little bit, waiting for Indiana Jones, whatever game I'm going to play next.
Yeah, I'll fire up Star Wars Outlaws here and there. So I've somehow accumulated like 12 or 13 hours, just occasionally every 30 minutes or so firing it up, here and there. So, but I actually picked up Dragon Quest. Well, no, I had Square sent a code for Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D, and then I was also going to get it on the Switch at some point, just physically. So I have been playing it on the PS5 Pro. But this game, I saw some of the reviews were going around about this thing where some people weren't happy with certain elements of it. It is like the most traditional HD 2D remake I think I've ever seen, at least so far, with like the number they've done. So it is as close to a remake as 3 as you'd expect, but to the point where they I feel like let some things slip through the cracks with quality of life. And I feel like there's some missed opportunities with the battle specifically. So when you go into a battle, you see your character standing there, and the art's awesome. The visuals are great for HD, for like the HD 2D stuff. But then when you actually go to fight, the characters are off the screen. You see the enemies, and they have very basic animations of things happening. So it in that sense, it doesn't feel as like one of the higher quality HD 2D games, but then you'll see the characters in the overworld, you'll see some of the backgrounds and backdrops, and it looks awesome. But otherwise, it is classic Dragon Warrior 3 or Dragon Quest 3 when they brought it to the Super Famicom. And if you like that game, you're going to like this one. Just know if you get into it, it feels like an RPG out of like the 90s that didn't have as much work done to it, maybe to bring it up to current expectations, we'll say. So right off the bat, I had to grind 3 or 4 levels just to be in a position to move around on the map. So like there was immediate strategy and like death in the game. So I've played about 3 hours of it. I'm going to keep playing. I did like, I used to make that was like a repro people asked for all the time, was Dragon Quest 3 on the Super Famicom, the Super Nintendo, when they got the translation patch. So I've played that game a couple times, just testing it even. But it looks cool. Just know what you're getting into. Look up some gameplay first. I would recommend it. But I think that was everything for the most part, other than Dragon Age, which talked about Dragon Age a lot the past couple weeks.
Did you ask Evan what he's playing?
I'm about to go over to but I'll go over to Evan now. Evan, what's the weird game you've been playing this week?
I mean, I've been mostly video editing because next week is Towers of Azkaban and Stalker as well, which hopefully
Stalker 2 is coming. You're gonna play Stalker 2.
I hope it's good.
Oh, good. You can tell it. You'll be able to fill us in on that. You're like the Stalker guy from.
But for the most part, I've basically, I guess, until new content comes out, beaten Pokemon Pocket. I guess.
Beat Pokemon Pocket. See, we talked about that last week, and now you're like all in on this thing.
I went to a wedding, so I got bored.
Time out. How did you beat the game? I'm
all
curious.
the missions are done, like all of them. I did all the side missions. I've got the full rank for the competitive season. I don't really see any reason to do anything in it right now.
Battle for funsies. Have you completed all like the entire, I guess, card decks or whatever?
I'm not gonna put that effort in just because it is full. Oh, card decks or the
I mean, like just collect all the cards.
You got to start dumping money into it to do that.
Yeah, you got to really start dumping because I think I'm a few away from having them all, is what I'll say.
Oh my god, like you got through it. Yeah, because I'm going through all the challenges like casually, but that is.
I did all those achievement ones too. The ones where you're supposed to fight the really hard missions with decks that'll take a lot more damage, stuff like that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Evan's all in on Pokemon Pocket. We just talked about it last week. Now he's
super casual.
It's a cool. It's a cool phone game for that. It
cool.
Makes sense.
It sounds like I've heard a lot of the news coming out. Like apparently at the end of the month, we're getting 2 new effects that get caused by certain Pokemon to come up, as well as a new set. So they seem to be working really fast on it. So that's nice.
They're adding trading to the game. These gacha games never work when trading comes in. So I have no idea
trading is going to end this game.
Yeah, there's gonna be stamina probably linked to trading to stop.
Probably
you trade once or twice a day or something.
There's gonna be people online who wants this full art $500.
Yeah. You'll see some weird stuff like that on eBay. Like people will sell their digital cards on there probably, and then just trade you for some common. So they're gonna have to figure that out. But
wait, so let's move over.
Well,
it happens all the time. People
explicitly on this, but I mean, you can always post somewhere that you've got, full art Charizard, and if someone wants it who's new to the game, $50, you straight up get it.
Okay, duly noted. Not that I would do that, but it's good to know that that's
probably against TOS, but yeah.
Oh yeah, maybe I would never. No. Okay, continue. Sorry.
Let's talk about the Game Awards. We will find out the nominees for next week. Let's face it, most people just really care about like one category. I know they do like 50 of them, and then they cycle through 15 of them in the pre-show before we even see like our first world premiere. But Game of the Year is the one I think most people are interested in. And there's going to be 6 nominees based on history. I assume they're not going to extend it to like 8 or something. So I've been really curious. I think 3 of them are kind of locked in now. It's most likely Metaphor, Astrobot, and Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, unless someone disagrees. I think those are going to be 3 that are obviously
those 3 are locked. Yeah, those 3 are locked in.
The other 3, though, there's so much conversation right now as to what it could be. Like there is disagreement back and forth right now, and I'm trying to figure out if could we come to some kind of list here and see how close we get.
I think it's impossible to really, because like if you go back and look at the history of it, like usually you could just take the scores, Metacritic scores most of the time, and you can just kind of attribute it to that. Take the best indie game, throw that in there. Take the best Metacritic score games. You usually just do that, but some years you can't. Like 2019, you can't. That was Death Stranding. That was Control for some reason. Some people like those games. That's fine if you do. Those games were in there despite being way lower. But then most other years, you can just take the top Metacritic games.
I think, yeah, that's usually the case. It's either Metacritic score, or if a game sold so well it became like this phenomenon. Sometimes that can get it into a category. Like I think just off of that, Black Myth Wukong is going to be in.
What real quick, BG, because I don't remember, what game would be the equivalent of that? Because I'm trying to think, because I didn't mention that, but if there is one, I want to make sure that I mention that if I'm good, because I'm going to do a video on it. But I'm trying to think what game would be like the equivalent of a Black Myth in terms of its sales.
Just sold really well to God. I think Helldivers 2 has a chance.
No, I meant in the past.
PUBG,
past.
PUBG would be it, I think, because PUBG got in when it was technically early access. It sold so well.
I think PUBG, but I can't think of anything else. That's why it's hard for me to put Black Myth, but it could be. You're right. I mean, the sales, but I'm thinking like, what other game?
But that's also a thing. Palworld, technically early access.
Yeah, Palworld.
Yeah,
January.
If there's a lack of a full 6 that like got 90s in Metacritic, then they resort to, okay, what was extremely popular, you know? Like I think Helldivers 2 might get nominated. I wouldn't put my money on it, but like for those first like 3 months where it came out, it was everywhere. You couldn't avoid it. It had like social media in an absolute chokehold, right? It was just this whole phenomenon. So I think that could, even though it's trailed off from that time, and
incredible.
Yeah, it's trailed off a bit. Maybe that could get it in. So I do think Black Myth is likely. They usually have a Nintendo game in there, so maybe Echoes of Wisdom. Because I think that's the highest rated Nintendo game to come out this year, right? It is Echoes of Wisdom.
Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is, but I mean that's
like that remake remaster kind of territory,
remake,
right?
Yeah. I mean, unless it's like Resident Evil, it's hard for like the remakes to get in there.
What do we think? Do we think they feel about big DLC like Shadow of the Erd Tree?
There's never DLC, never usually makes it, except for Blood and Wine. That was the time, but that's like you can play that independently.
That's a whole zone. Yeah.
It's so there's been no Shadow of the Erd Tree. You have to actually do.
You have to get to it.
You have to do things. Whereas the Blood and Wine, you don't. But they don't ever have expansions in like Game of the Year. Like that, Blood and Wine was the only one that I can think of, and that is you can play it independently. But most of the time, expansions they just leave those off unless it's part of the game. You know, unless it's like
this year.
So I agree with you guys. Like I 100% agree with you guys. Like, because I wrote my list. I wrote Black Myth Wukong. I wrote Astrobot, Metaphor, Zelda with a question mark, because they do typically throw in like a Nintendo game. And I agree that it probably wouldn't be Thousand Year Door, even though I absolutely enjoyed that game. I love that game. I loved it since the GameCube. Did Alan Wake 2 come out this year, or am I misremembering? Because I remember there was
last year.
That was last year?
Yeah, they did the whole musical at the last show.
Oh, was it? Oop. Okay, just kidding about that one. I would love to see an indie game get thrown in. So I might be saying the name wrong, but Balatro?
Yeah,
Balatro,
yeah.
I've been calling it Baltro. I've been calling it Baltro this whole time.
It's actually a good game.
Like there is such a cult following. Like there's a huge player base for that game. So I think that could be a really cool contender. I love it when I see indie games go into like the main category. I know you guys said you only care about the Game of the Year award, but the Indie Games Award is also really cool.
Oh no, I'm just saying what I think a lot of people will tune in. Let's face it, the thing they really care about are just seeing new games announced. Like they're awards, sure, but sometimes I will admit the show acts like they don't care as much about the awards either.
The padding through, that padding between like the mini ones and the commercials, where they're just like, all right, I got to read these real quick before we cut to commercial.
Rapid Fire is a bit disappointing. Hopefully this year.
What do you guys think about these games? Because I wrote down a bunch of games. Tekken 8 and
there's a fighting category for that.
Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth.
I had my 6 written down too, and it's funny because one of them you did just name one of them that I wrote down.
Like a Dragon?
Yeah, I did. So my 6, I put Astrobot, Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, Metaphor, Refantasio, Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth, Black Myth Wukong, and I wanted to will this one to an existence, all right, because there's history here, and I think it would just be one of the most awkward shows. God. Silent Hill 2.
Yeah.
Put it in there. I gotta see Jeff go up there. I gotta see him put the ensemble together around Konami's game, where he has to set up the orchestra.
It'd be interesting if Tekken didn't make it. That's one of the few 90+ rated games this year.
And that's why they have the fighting game category. They keep doing it year after year. They're just it's a fighting game. It goes in the fighting game category.
Fighting games have a tough time. The only game that's been able to is Smash Brothers. That's the only game that's been able to kind of break through. But those games are rated a bit higher. But I don't know. Maybe this is the year that Tekken finally gets its recognition for Game of the Year. I think it deserves it.
It's got to go up against Sparking Zero. That's all it's got to do.
It's gonna win Fighting Game of the Year probably.
Yeah, that goes into the debate that people bring up about racing games. Racing games don't make it into it either, and they think there's, it's just I don't know exactly what it is. You fighting games, racing games. There's a bunch of genres that just never really get into the game of year category.
Yeah.
Because I think they lack something where other genres are kind of more well-rounded gameplay, story, visuals. It has the music. It has all those things where some of the sports stuff is just kind of limited in that way, I think.
From what I've seen from Tekken, the story mode, that's why I'm thinking like this one's rated so well. The story mode's so good. The music is fantastic in Tekken. The online play is silky smooth for the most part. They've done everything. I don't know if they can make, pretty sure they can make a better Tekken, but this is probably pretty much like, in terms of the modern Tekken games, it's the best one. So if this doesn't make it, that's rough for fighting games. Because Street Fighter didn't make it either, last year.
You know what it is about this is you also look at the panel that nominates everything, and I don't know if they are they're not like in the fighting game community most times, I think that if you have somebody who's really into it and they're maybe one of they may nominate it, but then a bunch of people will nominate Metaphor or like a drag, something that's a bit more, I don't want to say in line with casual, but like less hardcore, like a fighting game where you're worried about timing and parries and all this other stuff.
They'll nominate Jump Force for fighting game of the year, like that year.
They just need a spot.
They need a spot.
Or how about Sifu for fighting game? How about Sifu for fighting game? Yeah, that's also a fighting game, right? That's
a good game too. I actually kind of blurred the lines, but yeah, that wasn't a.
It's not a fighting game.
It's not amazing game. I love it, but
Sifu's great. It's just not a fighting game though. They nominated that for fighting game of the year.
It was a reach. A reach.
That was a little bit of a reach.
MVG, there's a game we're not mentioning.
Was it
that released earlier this year?
Hellblade 2? Is that the one?
Oh no, it wasn't that. There's another one that
I don't give a shit what the nominations are. I want the internet to melt down. So I want Hellblade 2, Dragon Age, Star Wars Outlaws. I want those games in the conversation. I just want the internet to burn. So let's
I was setting you up for the Stellar Blade
DLC
nomination, MVG.
Which one?
Stellar Blade.
Oh yeah, no. Seriously, Stellar Blade could sneak in. It's got a lot of buzz around it. I think reviewers generally liked it. Man, I think you guys are right though. The first three games you mentioned are definitely locks. Astro and Final Fantasy. Metaphor. Thank you. Balatro could get in there because it is an indie darling, and reviewers who like it. I think the only concern I have is if you look at the people that actually do nominate in the Game Awards versus the actual reviews for a game like Balatro, it doesn't really sync up too good. Mm-hmm. So I think. Honestly, I think he's got to play it safe. I think Like a Dragon's probably a good pick, John. Probably will get a nom. I don't think Tekken 8 will, even though it deserves a spot in there because it's a fighting game, like you guys mentioned as well. So I don't know. I think the three games that we get, we'll have to wait and see. I don't know what they're going to be. Could be anything.
That's one of your favorite games of the year, Tekken 8.
It is. I really enjoyed it. Me and Jersey played it. Yeah, it's a fun time, man. It's good, and they're still adding things to it as well. It's a good game, definitely, but it is a fighting game, so there's definitely that stigma associated to it. It's like racing games, fighting games. They usually don't make the conversation. You mentioned Silent Hill, John. As much as I really like Silent Hill, the remake, I don't think it's going to be in the conversation.
I'm sure Jeff will have a hard time sleeping at night when that's not in there for nominations. Eventually, Konami's going to get one of these. I'm telling Metal Gear Solid Delta next year, maybe.
He's going to work so hard to not even.
I just want to see one show up that's like 93, and it's like
Metal Gear. Metal Gear could be that. Metal Gear could be, but then they can. Oh, it's a remake. No, it's not invited.
Next year,
unless it's Resident Evil.
Death Stranding 2 versus Metal Gear Solid Delta in the Game of the Year awards. Oh man!
Oh, that's gonna make some people cry because there's always the it's rigged and there's that's honestly my favorite part. All the crying afterwards, with depending on who wins, whoever wins, the crying is always great.
It's rigged.
It's always, there's a grand conspiracy around what video game wins in the world. Like really, video
like it affects their life and their financial situation. You're like, what are you doing?
It's an award that most people don't really remember. Like, just without looking, like what won Game of the Year 3 years ago?
What was that? Was it 2021?
2021.
That's called that one game. It Takes Two.
Yeah.
Okay.
It Takes Two.
Yeah. I've done too much research on this. I know every single game since the
Yeah, we're working on a video for it. You don't count.
Oh, I've done a few different videos. I think I've done one every single year, but I just remember. So yeah, like It Takes Two. That year was interesting. It's almost that year was crazier than this year because that year there was like no 90+ rated games. It Takes Two was like the only 90+ rated game on there. And then it went down a little bit afterwards, but that was the only one. Everything was like high 80s. That was Metroid Dread, Deathloop, Psychonauts. It was all that. So everything was like mid to high 80s, and then It Takes Two was a 90 at the time. So that was an interesting year, and then it ended up winning it.
I'm going to do the Game of the Year bracket this year. I think it'll be pretty interesting to see how it unfolds. So I'm taking a chance and waiting for Indiana Jones because I feel like it'll probably get in. But if it doesn't, feel real
it's out. That'll be next year.
Yeah. No, I mean for my bracket, for the
okay.
Go through it.
Yeah, we actually do it at the end of the year.
If that thing shows up and it's like 60 or low 70s, I feel real dumb because I just waited an extra 2 weeks for that.
I think I'll at least be like an 8. At least
just so what I do here makes sense.
Because machine games, their games usually do pretty well, right? Like review scores, like they're usually like they do Wolfenstein, right?
I think people go into it. Reviewers probably go into it with some kind of expectation that it'll be a good game. So we'll see. We'll see. PS5 Pro. A week later, I have it. BG has it. MVG has it. Yes. Okay. Actually, I didn't even ask this. Did you get a chance to turn yours on at all, BG?
I did.
Okay, cool.
But I'm just not. I think it was like forgot who it was. I think it was MVG. But like, yeah, I really am just kind of waiting for just the next game to come out that uses it. Right.
Yep.
Testing to see how the old games look like. That's great. That's great and all. But to me, it was always like a future proofing machine to have. The best for whatever game is not on PC and only on PS5. So I'm not like super excited to look at stuff old. I did turn on Final Fantasy because that's my game of the year anyway.
I was going to ask you about that. Yeah. Final Fantasy. Everyone had to have turned that on.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's definitely the best use of it. It still kind of makes me mad because I put 250 hours in that to get the platinum. And I looked at that Vaseline for 250 hours on screen and I'm just, I wish this would have just existed before the game came out. I wish the game would have came out after the console, something. Because now it's just like, man, I did everything. I did everything, man.
Yeah, there's no point in going back now. Even me, like I have like 80 something hours, and even I don't really feel like going. The game kind of wore on me over time after I got done, and I was trying to go back to other stuff. It just, I don't know, it's been made fun of a lot. There's a lot of padding. It can be kind of bloated for that platinum, but
man, I was capturing footage for my video last week, right? And I just load up a random save, and I'm like, all right, I'm just going to leave the city gate so I can go outside. And it's like, you can't leave. I'm like, what the fuck, man? This game, I hate how they talk about this game being open world, and it's not open world at all. Like I had to basically grind for like 30 minutes to get to an outdoor area so I could actually capture some gameplay. It was crazy.
Yeah, my save, I was Kate Sith at the time, and I was like, "Oh, that's right. I have to like go do this other stuff."
Are such a heavy load in that game. Like for the platinum, you pretty much got to master every mini game, and that'll probably be my main critique with them. Is like there's like I would say 3 or 4 mini games. Get them out of here. Some of them are amazing, but a bunch of them are like, yo, this is absolute garbage.
It's like they tried to make it as annoying as possible with some like hey. We're gonna make this more annoying than fun. Which, to be honest, like there's a lot of JRPGs where like they do try to make the mini games as annoying as possible at times, but this one just seemed to be more, or at least in recent memory, like as bad that I can think of. When it comes to some of the side quests, but the other stuff is good.
All right, MEG, what's the lineup there for your PS5 Pro after a week?
I like the Pro, but similar to what BG was saying, it's just kind of sitting in my living room waiting for new games to come out, right? So I think a lot of us, it's hard to try to market this thing, and I think Sony did the best they could, and I think they did a pretty good job, right? Talking about how this is, going to enhance your games going forward, and they showed us a lot of examples of older games that have been patched. So I think that was probably the best they could do given the time that they had. But for me, honestly, I think next year is really when I'm going to really start using it. So, the new Tsushima game, Yotai, I'm sure that will be enhanced and that'll be a great experience. So it's really now, can Sony and third parties really take advantage of the hardware? And I think they will. I think most developers want to offer the best possible experience that you can, right? But yeah, I mean, I like the Pro. I said in my review that, if you are someone that is already invested in PS5, it's probably not worth the money right now. I would wait. But if you are someone that is also coming into PlayStation for the first time, I don't think you can beat that $375 Slim deal right now. Get on that. I would probably just hold off until more compelling stuff comes out for the Pro. GTA 6 is another game that, is kind of hotly rumored to be one that will take advantage of Pro features, and I'm sure it will. It just depends on what they end up giving us. But look, I think the hardware itself is exciting. It's really now just up to not only first parties, but third parties to really take advantage of it. And that's the real difficult part they have now, because all of a sudden you're kind of fragmenting your user base a little bit. But hey, I like the hardware. I like the specs. I'm happy I got one.
That's actually a good question, MVG, now, because the PS5's had one SKU this whole time that you developed for, because you have the digital and then just the disc-based one. I guess this isn't as bad as we're going to give you a weaker system, but just a more powerful system. I don't really know what the headaches that brings necessarily for something like this.
With the PS4 Pro, they made it pretty easy, so you could just kind of target both systems. And I think what they're trying to do here is they're doing pretty much the same, unless you want to tap into things like PSSR and stuff like that, right? So that's when things get a little bit different. And that reminds me, some of the games that I've seen, Sony needs to standardize I don't know, maybe I'm not saying it right, but they have to come up with a way to kind of come up with standard names for these fidelity or performance features, because like you play Stellar Blade and you've got like, what is it, like Pro and Pro Max and fidelity and performance, right? And then you play like Dragon's Dogma, you've got it's called something else, right? I like the way that Ubisoft is doing it, where they literally do what Mark Cerny said, and that is they take away that option completely, because you're getting the best fidelity and the best resolution, right? So to me, that makes more sense than anything else, because I find myself kind of fiddling around with these like presets now, and there's really no reason to have those presets. I feel like, I think developers and Sony maybe have to come up with some standard guidelines around, what they call this stuff going forward.
You played the Crew Motorfest, right? Okay. Yep. Same thing there, because I did Assassin's Creed Mirage and I did Outlaws, and they removed the performance quality from Outlaws and Mirage. Same thing in Motorfest.
Yep. I think Ubisoft, that's what they're doing with their games, and I think that's the right approach for PS5 Pro.
Yeah, you're right. Some of the options, like Stellar Blade's options, are weird. I had to double check the description on both of them before I picked one. I honestly
don't know what the difference between Pro and Pro Max is. Like, I really don't. And I was watching DF's kind of PS5 Pro analysis, and they was saying the Pro setting was better than the Pro Max setting, which kind of didn't make any sense to me. But they obviously know what they're talking about. So I don't know, man. Like, I thought the whole point was, to remove the choice for the customer and just give them the maximum, right? So hopefully we'll start to see more of that.
Yeah, I'm looking at those first party games at this point. Ghost Yote coming up, Wolverine, which sounds like we'll hear more about that soon. So, like, Insomniac is pretty good with the hardware, just based on what we've seen. So I'm looking to them. I'm looking to Sucker Punch and eventually Naughty Dog. But GTA 6 make or break. If I was Sony, I'd get in there and help out to make sure it takes advantage of this Pro.
Honestly, John, I kind of hate to say it, but I'm kind of thinking about like just waiting on Indiana Jones for the PS5 Pro at this point.
Man, the strategy's working.
I'm serious. Like, I could play it on Xbox. That's cool, but why would I not play it on the Pro, where I'm going to get maximum resolution, maximum frames? So I may just hold out for it.
Yeah. Microsoft doesn't care. I mean, they'll sell it to you anywhere. You already have an Xbox. You have an Xbox Pro.
I do. I've got this one right here. See, Xbox. Right here.
Actually,
Nice.
speaking of which, that brings us into the. Thank you, MVG. That was a good segue. That brings us immediately into Xbox's marketing campaign, the new marketing campaign. Which actually, Celia, you're on deck for this one because you're the marketing person here. You maybe can make more sense of this because everyone seemed kind of confused about this one with their new marketing. This is an Xbox, and they have a lot of them, which I did actually see some of these, by the way, on like the side panel at one point for YouTube. I also saw it at one scrolling through a website. So they do have these deployed. They're out there right now.
Yeah,
they
you
have
saw
like
the whole grid.
Yeah.
They have square. They have 16:9. They have like the tall one. Like they're everywhere right now.
Are they selling that bento box? I kind of want that bento box.
This is. I think I saw the. I saw the one where it was like the TV. This is an Xbox goes on a wall, and then I saw one that was the Amazon Fire Stick thing. So I've seen those two out in the wild.
Those are all Xboxes.
That's their strategy. This is an Xbox, and they're showing
Meta
things
Quest
that aren't Xboxes.
VR is an Xbox as well. Meta Quest is an Xbox.
Yeah.
So for it, I think we've had a conversation about this before. I don't remember if it was on the Spawncast or not, but I totally called it. So like with everything, I think we're talking about the future of like Xbox and whether they're going to continue in the console market. And they're kind of like, I think it's smart of what they're doing for this marketing strategy because they're framing it that they're not stepping back from console hardware, but they're highlighting all of the opportunities for ways to like for you to play their games. And like, does it make sense? Yeah. The console wars are over. Unfortunately, like everyone, it isn't like a Nintendo versus Sony versus Xbox. Like we all own multiple consoles and we all have our loyalties of what we tend to lean into. So their focus, like with their game releases and releasing on different platforms, is like seeping into other people's ecosystems and having acquisition there. But with the everything is an Xbox campaign, it's breaking into what people already are into as well. So like not necessarily just the domestic like United States market, but like looking into other countries where PC and mobile gaming is like the larger market size and the preference, and just selling their games there as well. I think it's really smart. Is it a bummer that they're stepping away? They're not stepping away. Sorry, they're not highlighting the console as much anymore. But yeah, but like I get it. It's interesting, and I think it's a smart move for them, and they'll get a lot more sales that way.
I completely disagree with you, Celia. Respectfully.
Really?
I think this marketing bite should have been, I don't know which yes men said this is a great idea and it got approved, but this should have been killed off at some point before it even got out there. Well, here's the thing, right? xCloud isn't Xbox. My phone is not an Xbox. A Steam Deck isn't an Xbox. I can't run 95% of my games on those devices.
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
I'm pretty sure they said this. All that stuff's an Xbox.
I'm pretty sure.
Are you saying that they're lying?
I mean, here's
are you calling Phil Spencer a liar?
I'm saying that if I can pick up my copy of Jet Set Radio Future, stick it in my OG Xbox, and play it all day long. Can I do that on my phone? No, I have to download an emulator, right? Which is outside of what they're talking about. So I don't know. Like, I think it's interesting that they went down this path, and look, I think you're right, Celia, that it will lead to more sales overall, but I don't know if it's the right move, the right marketing move for them, but we'll see.
I know, and I totally respect that. And like, is it smart for the Xbox brand? That's something that we'll have to see. Like I said earlier, like I do agree, like it's a bummer for consoles because that's been such like a focus for years. But the way that they've positioned themselves with like not having as much exclusives and releasing on other platforms, and it's kind of just dwindling down their focus for console. So a way to step up from that is jumping into other markets. And like, sure, can you not play all of your games, like on every single phone? Probably not, but it's a step of what they plan on transitioning their business to, and they've done that in other aspects of it, so it makes sense.
I think they should have delivered that functionality first and then marketed it. Like, a lot of people are saying, it'd be really cool if I could just log into my to xCloud, and all my games that I've purchased, I can just play them right on my phone or any device. Now, if they get to that point, then I could absolutely get behind a marketing campaign like this, but they don't even have that right now. Like, I can't log into, xCloud and then pick a game that's in my library and play it. I mean, some games, sure, I can, but most of them I can't, especially the back compat stuff, right? So maybe deliver that functionality first, or at least give us a piece of that functionality and then hit the marketing bite, rather than telling us that everything is an Xbox, but there's really no way to play 95% of our games on my device. It doesn't make sense.
I'm glad you looked into that, because I did not. I took things as face value, and I got into the memes. I photoshopped my cat as this is an Xbox. So yeah, okay. Didn't realize that they didn't have the backup for it. They had no verbiage on that.
This will eventually be an Xbox. That's what they're meant to say. This will eventually be an Xbox. But here's the thing.
Why did they launch the campaign then? Hold on. I take back everything nice I said. Throw it out the window.
They have to get it started.
MVG is right.
You know what the funny thing with this is that they put themselves in a position to where this is probably one of the only paths to go forward, right?
Yeah.
Like with the Xbox One and the sales, Phil Spencer said it, they kind of lost the worst generation to lose. So with the sales of that, and then now with the Xbox Series and the dwindling sales of that, and then you're buying all these companies for billions, you need return, or otherwise you're in trouble, right? So there was really no other point. They weren't going to be able to buy Activision and buy all these companies and all of a sudden sell 100 million Xboxes and make everything exclusive and try to push the way that the traditional model is. So I think really there was, because of Game Pass, and it started with there and what they went with that, and then branching off into all this, it's like they had no choice but to go this type of path. But yeah, I wish, just like MVG, I wish they were actually was complete. If it was complete, where you can play everything and it was no problem, it was all interconnected and everything is just, then it would be awesome for this marketing campaign, but it's not. So I guess that's the problem, right?
Question. Okay, when do you think the lawsuit happens? How people companies will market the Subway, the $5 foot long, it's not really a foot, and everyone got really mad. Well, not really mad, but someone sued. Do you think there's going to be a lawsuit of this is not an Xbox, this is my Apple book or whatever the hell,
for everything.
But this makes me think of, John, all the parents who used to come in and try to ask us which system to get their kids, or stuff like that. Just a parent that hasn't looked too far into it, and they're like, my kid wants an Xbox, and they see the poster of this is an Xbox with the frickin' VR headset, and they're like, I guess that's the Xbox, and then they go look for it and buy it instead of an actual Xbox.
It's what happened.
It's just one of those really weird situations. You're like, what are you thinking with this?
Yeah, my issue with the ad is, to me, it waters down the actual Xbox, which they don't really care about the box that much themselves. And I feel like Xbox does this thing where they don't do anything to make their console more desirable. They just make it more accessible, right? So they're like, well, let's just put it everywhere. But just putting it everywhere doesn't mean more people want it.
It's not that you want it. You're going to have it.
Exactly. Let's just flood. And I don't know if that actually works. I don't know if people see that you can. I don't know if the people who have what's the thing you plug into the switch, the fire stick. I don't know if people who have a Fire Stick, if that many people are gonna use that to play Xbox games. People who have a Quest, people who have all these different devices that they showed, how many people are actually using that to go play Xbox games? Now, some, but most. That's not going to be the use case for most of those devices. And there's plenty other things that people are going to do with those if they play games on them. It won't be mainly your games. It's just going to be a bunch of others. So it's just, I guess this is like OJ said, this is the path that they have to go down. So they're doubling down on it, of just leaning into accessibility and being the appearance of being consumer friendly and all that stuff, because they haven't made themselves very desirable, and they've kind of killed their own brand in a way.
Yeah.
I think my issue with this entire marketing campaign is it's Microsoft again behind the scenes, incredibly disjointed, because I have no idea what the timing is here. They're doing this right before the holidays, when they would, you assume, attempt to at least try to sell some boxes to make up maybe for lower sales at the beginning of the year. But they've now launched this campaign telling you your phone is an Xbox, as MVG is saying. without their mobile store being ready. It was supposed to have come out in July.
Thank you.
Something happened. Sarah Bond told us it was coming out in July, the mobile store. I don't know what happened, but it's not here. So maybe next year it's coming out.
It will
and now
be
the
an Xbox.
Phone does have an Xbox store basically, but it doesn't yet. So
little asterisk at the bottom of the poster.
It took them half a year or more to start and then put together and set everything up with budgets and stuff. So I assume when they had this timeline in place, they thought the mobile stores would be there, and they're not, because the whole thing with Google and Apple still held up in courts, breaking through like the situation when it comes to their walled garden stuff. And on top of that, their game streaming is still in beta. It's not very good. You can't stream the stuff you own. It's kind of still based on Game Pass games. So it doesn't seem like a great message to make now before you're ready, because you're going to give people a bad first impression on this Xbox connection to their phone or their VR headset or something. So it seems like there's miscommunication right now within Microsoft, which unfortunately feels like it's been that way for like upwards of a decade now, just going back to the Xbox One even.
I'm really shocked right now about this campaign, because like when you're asking about it, I'm like, oh yeah, like the move in the market, that makes sense. Nothing was ready. Nothing. Like this is like literally, you know how like people have nightmares where they wake up and they're in school and they're like speaking in front of a class and they're not wearing pants or something. I don't know. My nightmare is this. Holy shit.
Oh yeah.
Okay,
The marketing,
so none of the things are fixed. Sorry, I've been like freaking out. The more you guys talk, the more I'm like, oh my God. Because like as like a fellow marketer, I didn't really think about it, because I was like, oh, campaign direction. Okay, that makes sense. Called it. It seems like that's what their strategy, because how they're releasing games. I didn't know that they didn't have anything done. Okay, so how did this like wheelhouse keep on going? Is this one of those things where they already paid for the advertising and there was no way to stop it?
Goes back to what I said about.
Did no one up top like check on this? Like the communications team, like what's going on? Sorry, like this is a nightmare.
No one killed it off internally at Xbox, apparently.
It's got that like good vision of like their marketing group is being told to do this, and they're like, it'll be ready by then, right? And the guy just like walks out of the room. No.
Yeah.
The theory I have for why this ad campaign still went, Celia, is like around the rumors that have been going around with what Microsoft and Xbox, what their technological leap is for next generation. And I think this kind of plays into it, because as BG mentioned, they're watering down their hardware. Basically, they're separating the Xbox brand from the actual box, which sounds weird, but I kind of feel like their next generation thing, their big technological leap, is actually going to be more about the system software itself, like the like MVG, when there's development happening for these systems, you have like that OS, that Xbox hypervisor, whatever in mind when you're making this stuff. Yeah. Well, Microsoft has talked quite a bit about that, the gaming PC handhelds and everything else around the Xbox, as like, what if we developed we made this system software that would work across all these platforms and everything legitimately was an Xbox then, and we license the stuff out so people can make Xbox certified devices. We'll still make hardware, because apparently they're going to make a handheld that's coming out. They're going to make a system, but that's more to set the trend for features that we have, like say the jump to SSD, where we didn't have hard drives at SSD, and we'll introduce them there. And then third parties can go off and make their systems, kind of like controllers. You have an Xbox Series controller, third parties pick it up. Okay, these we're now going to make our own version, and it's Xbox certified. That's kind of what I think they're doing. What is going to happen next gen, which is going to be very strange.
So wait, you think that they release this campaign to like keep people intrigued about the Xbox brand?
I think they have a timeline in place. It's like, look, in 2 years, we're going to make this move, and we got to start separating people from the idea of this possibility.
But that's not how you...
Yeah. That's not... Here's the thing, John. Like, they just released Call of Duty, right? Biggest release, I think, for a while.
It's going to be the biggest release this year.
They've got... What are they? They got Indiana Jones coming. They've got Flight Simulator. Got Stalker. I mean, they're actually Xbox is finishing very, very strong this year. Probably one of their best kind of years they've had for a long time. A lot of momentum. Closing out the year. I just feel like it would have just been so much easier just to say, hey, we're going to just take $5 off Game Pass, and enjoy it, right? And then just hope that no one cancels after a month. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like they could have just done that to really kind of get more people invested in the ecosystem versus, you know, something like this.
You know what I'm realizing looking at this? So they released that trailer too, right? This is an Xbox and stuff. I'm looking at it, and I don't see any visual cues here for Game Pass. I don't think they ever mentioned it either with audio, this is their marketing campaign, and Game Pass isn't mentioned at all in it. Which
Game Pass is also an Xbox, so doesn't need to be mentioned.
Yeah. It's just the whole thing just seems so strange. I don't know. The message isn't, because we kind of understand that's what Microsoft's been trying to do for a little while, is move away from the dedicated box, but the timing.
John, they've been pounding the table for Game Pass for years. And
I know.
It's not like Game Pass subscriptions have skyrocketed at any point. So I mean, they can talk about Game Pass all they want to. Not at this point, it's about just, hey, let's just get whatever product that we have, and then people will find the Game Pass. But I mean, them saying Game Pass, how many years have they said that? And it's still not. What's Game Pass numbers at? 30-something million, 40 million? I don't know.
30 with Call of Duty just coming out. It probably got a boost. Still in the 30 millions.
And so it's been 30 million for how many years now? It's been 30 million for multiple years. So they can say Game Pass all they want to. They got to start actually, you know, there needs to be more than just we have Game Pass at this point for them. So I think that's part of it. Even though they didn't say Game Pass, I think that was actually part of it, because if everything is an Xbox, right, eventually, then Game Pass will be heavily marketed on your phone and all that. And then that's where the subs are going to come from, if there's so many devices that have access to Game Pass. So I think that's the reason why maybe they didn't put that in there. I'm trying to put myself back into my I used to do marketing, like when I worked not in gaming, but I worked at other companies, and we would sit down in these things, and we would definitely come up with stuff like this. Like, this give me some flash. We would definitely do something and do things like this. It's not just one person. It's a group of people that come up with things like this, you know, which there's some good ideas. I don't think it's like the worst thing. I mean, it's not good because of what MVG said, but there's some funny things in here. But yeah, I think it misses the mark when everything's not ready. And if everything was ready, I think it'd be a lot better, right? I think obviously it'd be, it's like, oh snap, everything's just available right then and there. You can everything's an Xbox for real, but it's not quite there. But yeah, I can see both sides. I can see how it like misses the mark, you know, overall with this marketing. But Game Pass, one of these days, right? Hopefully it can expand further than what
MVG got rid of his Game Pass. Like, it's we're losing people here.
Well, I've been
on court. I got rid of it ages ago after I beat Starfield last year. I've been on court since then just to play multiplayer games with you guys. I don't really feel compelled to have Game Pass. Look, we've been talking about this for a while. There's going to be a lot of comments that people say that we hate Xbox, but at the end of the day,
we do.
Well,
we don't hate Xbox.
We don't.
I was going to say, hold on a minute. We just said you canceled Game Pass.
No, I don't hate Xbox. I have every single Xbox ever made.
No, I respect the brand and I like what they do, but you know, Game Pass for me doesn't really appeal to me. If there's a game that I want, I'll buy it. Like Indiana Jones. Like I was saying, I have a pre-order for a Xbox physical copy because I want a physical of that game. But now I'm thinking maybe I'll just cancel it and get the PS5 Pro version. You know, but Microsoft doesn't care where I play Indiana Jones, right? So
we'll get a cut.
If they sell 3, 4, 5 million copies, they sure as hell won't care, right? Because that's money they wouldn't have made.
They actually, Phil Spencer said that there's no red lines and more games are coming. They're going to other platforms. It's changed quite a bit in
Game Pass. The problem is like
8 months.
It's
9
like
months.
Being an adult, Game Pass. If you're a child, Game Pass is like the most goated thing. But does anybody really have time to sift through all of those games and look to try?
OJ, how dare you? Okay, I love Game Pass, and I'm in my 30s.
No, I'm not saying that you can't like it.
No,
as an adult, it's tough to.
It's hard to capitalize on.
Because you're going to be picking exactly what you want to play, right? And a lot of the games aren't going to be on Game Pass. This is something that I've heard like many people. I'm not just saying it to hate on. I'm just saying you don't have time to play everything that you want to play and also sift through Game Pass and sift through all your other stuff that you want to do, like media, right?
Okay,
like think about like Netflix and everything else, right? Like,
it's just what you're balancing your time with. Sure, if you're playing is JRPGs, you do not have time for Game Pass because if it's all you're playing, then like each one's going to be 100-hour game. But what's cool about Game Pass is they also give a lot of opportunities to indies. There are tons of 1 to 3 hour experiences on there that I wouldn't have had a chance, or like I wouldn't have discovered until Game Pass. And so I've been going through so many different games, and it's been really cool. So yeah, of course, like it's deciding what makes the most sense for you. But I've been really enjoying it, and it gives opportunity to highlight games that normally wouldn't get discoverability like that.
I'm not arguing in terms of the value that Game Pass can offer if someone has the time to invest in it. But as all of us, we all have, you know, big boy jobs, big girl jobs, right? We all have that. And it's difficult to balance what you want to play that's not on Game Pass plus what you want to do with other things. It's hard to really invest the time.
It just
to really
works.
Go through all that, you know,
just works better with movies and TV shows as subscriptions than video games. Because while I was on my flight coming back, I watched almost the entire season of Arcane. Right, I never watched it before. On that, I was on like a 6-hour flight. Watched the entire season of Arcane. That would be the equivalent to maybe one video game, right?
Yep.
So in that amount of time, I could watch 10 episodes or whatever. In that amount of time, I probably couldn't finish a game. So it's like, for me at least, that's why like a subscription for games just does not work, because of the amount of time it takes to finish your average game.
And then what about what you want to play? What about the stuff that's not on there? That you got to factor in that, right? And then you got to factor in family. You just got to factor in if you have kids. There's just so much stuff. And I think maybe that's just the reason why it's been a bit stagnant, right? It's just because people are not finding as much, like, I don't have time to be. I mean, even people are cutting all their different subscription services. We've heard about, right? Like the tips and subscription services, people aren't subscribing. So it's not just, I'm not just picking on Game Pass. Nintendo has been stagnant on their Nintendo. I mean, they're at 30 something million. They're like, yeah, it's steadily improving, but they're also stagnant at 30 something million. I think PlayStation as well. There's not like, I mean, although PlayStation I think is doing really good with theirs, they're not drastically improving. So it's not like it's not like YouTube, right? YouTube Premium's like the king, right? That's like, because like people just want to watch stuff, and it's just easy, right? With YouTube Premium, they got like 100 million, but a lot of people are not doing as well as that. And I think that it's harder and harder with games. That's all. Just the time problem. And now, if there was like 50 hours in a day and we lived to be like 300 years old or something like that, I think Game Pass would be like, oh, man, I got significantly more time than I would have before. Or if work days were like, I don't know if we can make the same amount of money, but it's like we only have to work like 2 or 3 hours in a day. How about that? Like, I think, man, if it freed up so much more time. But that's the problem that I have when I bought Game Pass. I just didn't have the time to get through everything else that I wanted to play. Not that the value wasn't there. The value's there, you know, and to highlight the indies and all that good stuff.
Yeah, completely understandable. And like, it's funny because like hearing that, you know, when you watched all of Arcane, I think that's the name of the show. I can't sit through and just like watch TV. Like, I don't watch TV. I don't really watch shows. Like, there'll be something here and there, barely, possibly. But yeah, no, I'll totally sit through a 40-hour video game. So I think it's just also where we just balance our times.
Have you watched The Boys? Have you watched The Boys?
The Boy. I've watched
Lincoln Lawyer.
That's something I make time for.
You didn't sit down and watch The Boys like crazy?
No, I watched that. I said that's one thing I made time for.
Oh, okay,
but
yeah.
General, if you're like, hey, Celia, do you want to watch Emily in Paris? And I'd be like, I'd rather die. Like, it's kind of one of those things where you pick and choose where you spend your time. And then also where you mentioned with like Game Pass isn't growing, NSO isn't growing. I have not looked at PlayStation Plus, so I don't know how they're doing, to be honest. It's kind of one of those things where like all of the markets have already, like, they have their saturation. Like, if you were going to get it, you got it already. So it's kind of, I guess right now it's the change in the market will be finding more value or figuring out how you're going to have better user acquisition. Because if we're going to have it, you already have it. If not, then you don't. I don't know.
I'm backing you up, Celia. I'm going to download Stalker 2 on Game Pass.
Yeah.
I'm going to download. Yeah, I'm that's right. I'm gonna download Indiana Jones on Game Pass, download Avowed. I'm gonna download Flight Simulator, play it for 30 minutes, and delete it just because I can, MVG. Meanwhile,
I'm gonna play them all on the PS5 Pro next year, John.
I'm gonna play it there too, maybe
at high resolutions, high frame rates.
To be fair,
PSSR enabled.
I'm stuck on Game Pass forever because I started Stardew Valley on it, and that is a time sink. So I think I'll have that.
You know, you can buy Stardew Valley. I just want to let you know you can't buy the game.
No, I know, but like, this is my excuse. Let me have my excuse, OJ. How dare you?
Like, I'll tell you this, right? If Game Pass came out when I was a kid, if this was the 80s, I'm telling you, this would have been the greatest thing. I had the rental passes, right? Where you're like, you know, we had to get like Video City back in the day or whatever it was, like I used to get those like when renting games was a thing before I had money to buy games or before I got games. So if this came out when I was younger, if my mom got me this, I would have thought Game Pass is the
if you're a parent, I don't know why you might even buy your kids games.
Yeah,
just use Game Pass.
Yep.
It's like that summer of Sega Channel was it. You get to have that just much better with Game Pass now.
Mm-hmm. So it's a good idea for sure. It's a good idea. It's just difficult to get like everybody on board, I guess, at this point.
Let's go over to the PlayStation 5 Pro because we did have some initial sales that came in from Japan. Also had some comments from Hiroki Totoki, CEO at Sony. But the PS5 Pro actually sold 78,000 systems, just over that, in Japan in its debut, couple of days, because it came out on Thursday. So it was like Thursday, Friday, I think Saturday gets tracked there, maybe Sunday. But basically in the first 3 or 4 days, actually sold 13,000 more units than the PS4 Pro when that debuted back in 2016. And
no, not 2016.
The PS4 Pro came out 3 years after the PS4 dropped. Yeah, it was like November 2016. And because they came in, they replaced the PS4, dropped the PS4 Slim that people had like copyright claims on their videos for leaking. And they dropped that at $400. So even after inflation, if you factor that in, it comes up to like $550 for the PS4 Pro, which means the PS5 Pro is still $200 more in Japan at $750. Still did 13,000 more units though, which is, I think that number was a bit surprising to me. I didn't know it was going to do that in Japan. And Hiroki Totoki has said that the price itself doesn't seem to be affecting sales, and they believe that it's actually selling better at this time in terms of launch than the PS4 Pro did when it came out. So, I mean, is it because I see a lot of discourse online around this thing, and it seems like people are pretty annoyed at it, but it seems like the sales don't really reflect that, at least in the initial few days so far.
Isn't it just week one? I mean, we have to give it a little bit of time before we can analyze this, right? And let's be clear, I'm not a marketing guy, right? Celia, OJ, you guys know all this stuff better than I do, but like for me, we look at week one and yes, strong, very, very strong out of the gate, but I mean, we have to see what the first 6 months looks like going forward, right? Like, are these sales going to fall off a cliff next week in Japan? We don't know at this point. So I think we just have to wait on this one.
Yeah, I was seeing people bring that up, and week one, it's always week one. I mean, the Wii U did great week one. Like you got to always wait and see that. Obviously, the PS5 is going to do better. Obviously, it's doing way better than the Wii U ever did, easily. But in Japan, I saw that sales number, and the PS5 didn't even crack 100K total between all the models. And if you look at the software, which I'd mentioned that when people would tell me about PS5, oh, it's doing this. I'm like, well, look at the software. That can tell you kind of how things are going to go because people are going to need to buy games. And I know it's all digital, but even if you look at the PS5, like the standard PS5, most of that, the disc-based version sells more in Japan, and the software sales are still pretty atrocious week to week. So even if this thing had a disk drive or not, I think the software sales would have not been, equivalent. And it sold 78K. We don't know how many people bought the optional disk drive, but then there was one game in the top 10. Only one game in the top 10. The Slitterhead game, and it kind of flopped. It barely sold 5,000 units. So when you factor all that in, and then you factor in potentially like the scalping situation, that's definitely a thing there where they pack them up and they just ship them to other parts of Asia, other parts there. It seems to me like while it was an okay launch, like it wasn't bad, I would want to wait and get way more data than just 1 week to see if it's going to be something much more. Because the PS4 Pro didn't 61 something thousand units is not like a great number. Like it's okay, but the PS4 is not a massive selling system in Japan, and the PS4, obviously the PS4 Pro isn't either. These are not the best selling systems in Japan. Sony's had way better selling systems before. Obviously, Nintendo's had better selling. So for me, I don't really see beating out PS4 as a massive accomplishment, despite, yes, it's more expensive. I just didn't see it as anything crazy. It's good. But if it did like 100K plus, then that I would have oh wow, okay, yeah, that's like 100K plus at that price point, then that would definitely be something. Or if, like, let's just say PS5 sales total were well over that with that, then and then we saw software sales also fall in line, then I'd be like, oh wow, okay, yeah, that was pretty good, but still under 100K total and no software in the top 10. We'll see top 30. I think that's out now. But yeah, but outside of that, yeah, it was okay. And I think the launches here in the US and Europe were definitely better, obviously, than what you can do with Japan.
Yeah.
Agreed.
I just look at Japan. If you're not Nintendo, just be happy with whatever you sell in Japan. That's how I look at it. Just be happy with whatever you sell. Don't even matter. You sell 5, just be happy. Because you're not Nintendo, so
it should do pretty well in the US. Like, we'll get that Circana report next halfway through December, I think. And I would fully expect the PS5 Pro to like the PS5 will top the charts. They track by revenue. There's a $700 system. It'll do well on at least for this holiday. But I think in Japan, the PS4 Pro got to like 1.6 million sold before it tapped out. So I don't know if the 5 Pro will get there, but it's technically 750 in Japan. So that was a little surprising because we saw the PS5 when the price went up for that completely fell off the cliff in terms of sales units. So
yeah, and that's the thing. It's like the sales were dipped so far below each week. They were selling, I think, like 15,000 or like 20,000, which they would sometimes sell 30,000 or maybe a bit more. So the sales dipped so low. So that's why it's kind of like, oh man, maybe I thought people were maybe not buying them because they buy way more. So that's why I wouldn't say that I was expecting them to do like 100K plus, but I thought maybe they could do 100K plus with PS4 and PS5 Pro combined, but they almost got there. It was close. And like you said, it was above the PS4 Pro. That's Sony's best revision thingy that they've done. I have a list here, and it's number 11 in terms of like new launch SKUs in Japan. So right behind, it's right in front of the new Nintendo 3DS at 70K and right behind the Nintendo DSi XL at 100K. So number 11. That's not, like I said, not terrible.
Okay, yeah, I think FVG's right though, and like we'll look back on this in like 6 months or so and see where it is. But I think the PS4 Pro got like 14 or 15 million total, so I'd be shocked if this gets there, but just because of the price point. But if they do, that'd be actually be pretty impressive.
Yeah, the PS TV did 42K back in 2013. I saw that.
Oh, yeah,
I have one. I have one.
42. What about the Swan Crystal? Do you have a Swan Crystal?
No,
Swan
I
Crystal.
do not.
And it also did better than the PSP Go. PSP Go at number 18, 28,000 units back in 2009.
I have one of those somewhere.
Okay.
I'm not sure if it powers up anymore.
You have the white PSV TV?
I do.
MVG?
Yeah. I ordered one. I ordered one when they announced them from, I think it was Play Asia or something.
Yeah, getting imported.
Yep.
But do you have a Neo Geo Pocket Color?
I do not. I have a Neo Geo AES console, but I don't have the Pocket.
Well, nobody does. It only sold 18,000.
This thing?
Back in 1999.
I only had it right next to me. I was like, why do I have
analog
that right there?
stick? Oh,
I might as well hold this up now.
John, is that an Xbox?
could be.
Looks like it could be.
Just put in a Wi-Fi chip. It'll be great.
For those that are wondering, the highest is in terms of like a new SKU launch in Japan is Nintendo 3DS XL. That did 187,000. A little bit over that.
I will give them credit for that slogan. That is definitely like people are actually running with it for memes and stuff. And I guess that is like marketing 101. So credit on that.
Oh, it's great.
I take it all,
Really,
I take it all
really
back
good.
then. Take everything I said back.
They got him.
They got me.
Let me go over to, I do want to go over to Konami. We mentioned Metal Gear Solid 3 earlier in the show, but there was a piece of news that I looked at and I said, this is the moment where we realize we've kind of aged through the generations. And sometimes we see remakes and remasters and stuff. And I know we wonder, we go, why do we really need this? Konami answered the question very interestingly, why Metal Gear Solid Delta exists. And the reason they say is because younger generations now that are playing games aren't really familiar with Metal Gear. And I had to stop and went, yeah, I guess technically Metal Gear Solid 5, sure, but that didn't necessarily even feel like the older Metal Gear Solid games. So they feel the need to go all the way back to Metal Gear Solid 3 remake that as Delta. And is that like a thing that we should expect now, where we've been in gaming so long, we remember a lot of these games when they came out, but you have a generation coming in now where their first system is the PS4 or the PS5, and you got to reintroduce them to these franchises.
Do you?
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
We're seeing the trends.
But if they see it and they're like, "You guys liked this," and then they move on, it's like, "Oh, what did we do?"
You're fine. The kids will think you're cool.
We're introducing them to like kick the can and stuff. Like what's
yeah, I guess
going all
maybe.
the way back.
But no, it makes sense. Like that's why there's like such a trend with remakes and remasters. It's reintroducing it to a new audience. Does it happen too often sometimes with certain franchises? Yes, but it does make sense if you're looking towards the future. Unfortunately, guys, like we're getting old. So there's like several generations of kids that are like they don't even know what it is, and it's a way to introduce that. And so they have to
know I'm old. I don't.
I know. I'm sorry. It hurts.
My teenage daughter tells me that I'm old.
Maybe this year, like 55, 60. What do you tell everyone?
But
50.
yeah, it's
50.
It's one of those things. And like, you know, if it ends up being popular and they like it and has the same magic and it captivates a similar audience like it did when we were kids, we'll see more games in the future, and they don't have to reintroduce the characters with a reboot or something like that.
If it doesn't, do you think they sit in the office and they're like, "Crap, we got to come up with something new"?
Yeah, probably.
Damn it, we need to be creative again.
I don't know. I don't know. They'll figure it out. But I think it's a good thing. It introduces to new audiences, and it can help revive and revitalize like an old IP.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I agree. I'm not a fan of remasters, but I am a fan of remakes. I feel like if you're gonna do it, you should do it from top to bottom, rebuilt. As long as it's not too recent. Like I love Horizon, but I'm like, and that remake, remaster in between, whatever it is, even though it is definitely noticeably different from what came out in 2016, I'm like, this is absolutely unnecessary.
Kids aren't familiar with that franchise.
But stuff like obviously Resident Evil, with 2 and some of the Zelda games that, and I guess those are more remasters, but you get what I'm saying. Even with like stuff like when I think about Halo, I think one of the reasons why Halo is not what it used to be is because the younger generation isn't really that familiar with it. Like to us, Halo is this extremely important staple game in history. To them, it's just like, what is this? Like I think 26 and the average 26-year-old and under probably looks at Halo like, what is this? That's what I think. It doesn't, it just doesn't connect with them like it does with us. And I'm only 34. Yeah, 34. And it connects with me, but I like my nephew. Remember my nephew, I got to see what he's 19. I got to see what type of games he play. He's not familiar with Halo. Like it's just not a thing to him or his friends. Like him and his friends play stuff like Siege and of course, COD and a few other things like that. I was a little bit surprised to the type of games that, like in my brain, I automatically think Gen Z is just the typical casual brain dead. They play Madden and COD, but they're actually a little bit more open to
more serious,
other games. They are open to a lot more other games that they do play. So I do give them a little bit more credit for that. But yeah, I do think that remakes are sometimes needed because the newer, even though like I think the people who played it back then want an upgrade sometimes too and want to replay it. Like I was a big fan of the Dead Space remake. I played the original when it came out, but it was a game that was very hard to go back and play. Even on PC, I was like, yeah, this is rough. So I welcome that remake and I thought that was needed. So it's a case by case basis, especially if you plan to make future games in the series like sequels. Sometimes you got to reintroduce it.
Some people felt RE4 remake was not needed. Do you guys feel the same way? I mean,
I disagree, but I'm biased. I'm a huge fan. That's like my favorite game.
I really liked it. I think it was it was needed. I like the original GameCube version a lot, but there's also some jank associated to it, controls and stuff like that. I really like the remake.
Yeah, it was one of those I could do with it or without it. Like if they wanted to do it, cool. they just wanted to keep doing like HD remasters or just HD, I would have been fine with that too. It was like, but yeah, I mean, that's like one of my favorite games of all time. So,
I mean, beyond our personal nostalgias, do we think it was something that would have moved the needle on a new generation of gamers to play it? Like, genuinely, was that like enough for them?
Maybe some. I think it looks. I mean, obviously the marketing was good. It looked cool. I'm pretty sure there was some like 16, 17-year-olds like, oh, Resident. They've probably heard about it because of the movies and all that. So and most people have heard about Resident Evil. Now, and if they played a game, that's a whole different thing. But I think it might have helped with some of the kids that are getting into gaming now.
Yeah. I need to check on something real quick. Celia, can you go through the questions from the mailbag real fast?
Do you have the mailbag up? If not, I should have it.
Yeah, if you guys could go through that real quick. Give me 1 second.
Who wants to do it?
All right, I can kick into some mailbag questions. We got one from Medallion. No question this week. Just hoping everyone is having a good month so far, and if not, hope things get better in time for the holidays. Thanks for continuing to do what you do, being with us every week, whether in person or in spirit. So just some props to us, I guess. We got Javier. What's a franchise each of you would like to see making a return, no matter how realistic or unrealistic it would be?
A franchise?
Yeah.
Yeah. Can I go?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, go for it.
Banjo-Kazooie, give me the bear and the bird. I want that so fucking badly. Like a remake, a remaster, a
They're
reboot.
back in the form of
I don't
ukulele.
care.
Hey, MVG, got anything to say, buddy?
What did you say to me? Sorry, I was random.
I'm talking to MVG. Got anything to say, buddy? Got any information for us?
Give me the bear and the bird, sir.
I ain't saying shit about Banjo-Kazooie ever again.
It's a joke. It's a joke.
Oh, why? Do you hate Banjo-Kazooie?
No.
I have my Banjo shrine here.
No,
I love he loves Banjo.
Yeah, I'm a big Banjo.
Maybe he loves it a bit too much.
He told a lot of people it was coming back. They all got butthurt.
I didn't say it was coming back. I heard some stuff at GDC a couple of years ago. That's all, and
that's enough to verify.
Then the article started saying, "Developer, here's Banjo-Kazooie's coming back." I'm like,
oh, they attach your name to it. Oh,
yeah. It was a big deal.
That's why we're trying to keep Celia giving the whole spiel whenever she talks about stuff. This is my opinions only. Don't.
I learned a good lesson.
Yeah, you got it. Dude, you have to do the spiel because you can be like, well, my actual full quote is, and then you can be like, that's unethical in journalism to not
at all. Yeah.
I mean,
you got flack for the backwards compatibility on the Switch thing, and your video was explicitly like, it's going to be hard, not it's impossible.
Yeah,
and everyone's like, you said it's impossible. Screw you, Ozzy. You're like,
just be annoying with it. Keep on doing the disclaimer. People get mad that you do the disclaimer, but it's important to protect yourself.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Dino Crisis.
Nice.
Oh man,
so
good pick. You got the kind of Dino Crisis recently.
Yeah, I
mean,
mean,
Primal.
No, it's not. We played through that whole game and beat it. There's nothing Dino Crisis about it.
It was my favorite introduction to that though ever. Was just having that trailer with the girl with red hair and everyone.
Red hair.
Oh my god, Dino Crisis.
They had to be trolling with that. That couldn't have been coincidence.
Yeah. I mean, I would love to see Skies of Arcadia. I don't know if that's a franchise. There's only one game.
I don't care. Make it a franchise.
Skies of Arcadia coming back would be great, or like Chrono Trigger. Like that would be awesome. Something like that with Golden Sun. Bring that back too while you're at it. I know
they're making a spiritual successor to it, the Wild Arms series, though. I always loved the Wild Arms.
Yes, Armed Fantasia. It's a Kickstarter thing, and also what's it called? Penny Blood, which is the spiritual successor to Shadow Hearts. So it's kind of like the tandem Kickstarter, which I hope they actually. Those are supposed to come out next year. I don't know if they are, but they're supposed to.
What else? Oh, I had another one. What was it? Ubisoft is supposedly working on Splinter Cell, but something's going on there.
Will it be Ubisoft or they're not doing that well right now with their releases?
Yeah. They canceled the show, didn't they? Like for Splinter Cell, I think they canceled it. Like they were going to do like a Netflix series or something.
That would be good. A new what's it called? The remake just came out on Nintendo last year.
Advance Wars.
Yeah, Advance Wars. I would love a new Advance Wars.
Yeah,
a new Siren would be good because they just did the re-release one for the horror stuff. I thought they just dropped something on PlayStation Network or PS Plus or something recently. Be good to see Siren come back. No one else got anything? I don't, John, if you want to continue these, we're on Joe McKenna.
Okay, I see it. DC Fat Cat asks, how do you like your
we're
eggs?
on Joe McKenna.
We're on Joe. Okay, I see. Well, yeah. DC Fat Cat asks, how's everyone like their eggs? I'll say over easy.
Microwave in a mug.
Just depends. Over easy, but I can take scrambled. That's fine too.
Scrambled with cheese. Yeah, cheese on that scramble, man.
Yeah, microwaved in a mug on a bagel with some cream cheese.
Cheese is a no-go for me, boys and girls. Can't. I wish, but nope.
Joe McKenna, I see them here. This is they say for Celia primarily. How do regional sales and events affect the rest of the marketing landscape? For example, do all the Black Friday and holiday sales in the US reflect across the world? And if so, how is it marketed?
Oh man, I feel like this is a lofty question. Okay, well, capitalism is global. So there's like overlap with certain things, like Steam has their November sale, and that's not just for the States, that is global. There are region specific sales, like on Nintendo, there'll be Black Friday sale or something like that, and then they'll have that, and that's specific to NOA. Can you put your other games for other regions on sale at the same time? Yes, you can. You can do that for most platforms, depending if they have those opportunities for that. It's kind of one of those things where, like, personally, I tend to try to have regional sales as well as like international as well, just to make sure that everyone gets a chance to get the game, because there's nothing more disappointing than seeing it's like Shovel Knight's 20% off, amazing, and then you go to the store and then you don't get 20% off. So like I try to like have it out where it's fair. Does that answer the question? I feel like you just kind of just sign up for sales and marketing, and you just do your best and then make sure that things don't overlap, because some platforms have cooldown periods. So if you do that to match up, you might miss out on like a Boxing Day sale or something that you would actually want to have region specific for that sale. It just depends. Marketing internationally is just kind of one of those things where, since the global, is so connected, and I think like I know Black Friday is a like American holiday, but like they do it in Canada. I think the UK and Australia do a Black Friday or something of the sort of that nature.
Called Boxing Day. It's December the 25th.
Yes, but like no, there's also something where they do they do. Okay, you could tell me about this. Are there for Black Friday? Like, do stores still do discounts? Maybe they might not call it Black Friday, but like similarly.
Yeah. They'll even throw the name Black Friday in there, and even though it's a country that has nothing to do with Thanksgiving or anything like that. So yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So it's kind of global. So you kind of just throw it out there, try to make it as even as possible, and please buy our games. Okay, that's it.
Let's see. We have Breaksu says, I'm an Xbox, you're an Xbox. The entire show is an Xbox. Maybe that slogan actually worked better than I thought it would.
No, it's amazing. It's great. It's direct. It has association with products that you already use. That's why I was so supportive of it, because they were doing the spotlight of all the options. I just didn't know that they didn't have it ready. Oh my God. Jesus, I can't get over that.
If everything was ready, yeah, it makes sense, but it's strange that it was so early.
I don't know.
David says, every time I see comparisons of PS5 to PS5 Pro, I can barely notice a difference over YouTube. Is it a thing you have to have one? Oh, you have to have one to see it, or can I just wait for PS6 and hope that one there's a difference? Well, it's very difficult to tell, I will say, over YouTube. Like, it just is.
You need like a big 4K screen, right? Like just a nice big 4K screen. And
you need a big display. You kind of have to know what you're looking for as well. And you have to kind of A/B test it. You can't just look at it and say, "Oh, that looks great." It does, but even a base PS5 looks great. So I think, and that's one of the difficulties of trying to market the PS5 Pro, right? It's like everything looks better, enhanced, and yeah, that's true. But you also really need to know what you're looking for. I mean, if you're zooming 300% to see differences, that's that's not going to really help, especially when it comes to YouTube compression and stuff like that. It makes it very difficult.
I do not envy the. Oh, sorry.
Go, Silly.
Oh, okay. I do not envy the marketing team for this hardware release. It's just kind of one of those things, like you guys are saying, like as a consumer, like I value your guys' opinions, and you are not selling me on this console whatsoever. Because it's like, well, if you squint and you look sideways, you'll notice the tree is better. Like that just doesn't make sense to me. And I know with the for PS4 Pro, sorry, they had like games coming out that you could use it and it looked noticeably, it was new and shiny and like other things were noticeably different. I just feel like for this, they're just like, it's more powerful, we promise. And like that's just kind of the difference you're getting. And that is so difficult. Like I don't know how they could market it any other like differently or even better. Like there's nothing to really go off of that.
Yeah, back then we had 1080p to 4K, which was really easy. Everyone was buying 4K TVs. I mean, is anyone planning on buying an 8K TV in the next couple of years?
No, but this something like the PS5 Pro is for somebody who just like notices the little difference in things. Like I know, like when I'm on PC, and I just notice like small frame drops. It doesn't even have to be huge. And I know like the first thing I do is look in the right corner because that's where my counter is. And I'm like, did I just drop 3 frames? And I'm that type of person who can like notice that even if I'm at like 90 frames, 100 frames, if I drop a few, I can see it and notice it. But I don't think the average person is probably like that. So
I kind of treat it as though it's just a graphics card update for a game console.
Yeah.
I have a question. Are frame TVs 8K? Because I have a frame TV. So I'm like, it's like the TV that has like the frame over it.
I feel like those are 4K.
Are they 4K? So I wouldn't notice that if I was just curious.
No, because usually 8K. I think 8K displays, they usually recommend it's like at least 70 inches or something to even notice anything.
A huge TV for that.
I have a huge TV. It takes up the whole wall. I'll send you guys a photo of it. Because I'm like, wait a minute.
You need a PS5 Pro then.
I know, right? I was
Celia has been the one with the 8K TV.
I know. I was listening and I'm like, no, I acquired it for my friend because she was moving to New York and she didn't have anywhere to do it and no one would buy it. So yeah, I was like, oh, this seems like a good idea. So yeah, I think it might be. I'll show you guys. Maybe I should be the person to test it. Who knows?
You need the 5 Pro.
I know, right? I'm the market.
It does make me wonder how like the transition to the next gen is going to be, because it's always been resolution is easy to show off. You could even say graphics back from like PS2 or PS1, PS2 to PS2 to PS3. I don't know. Even hard drive to SSD was at least something. What I'm seeing with the PS5 Pro is it's the diminishing returns making it hard to market this thing.
If you're talking about the Samsung one, it's QLED 4K.
Oh, it's 4K then? Okay.
Yeah.
I have to double check. I don't even know what type. It's just huge. It's on my wall and I put anime photos displayed on it.
Still trying to find somebody who has an 8K TV so I can ask him how Gran Turismo looks on it.
I saw the price. I was at Best Buy with my wife and my kid, and I saw the price. I was like, well, no.
Isn't it 30 FPS? You can't do 60 8K?
I think it's 8K. I think it's 8K 30, but the HDMI encoder they have on there is still the one they have on the current PS5s. And there, a Digital Foundry mentioned there's kind of a limitation to it.
I do want to see the No Man's Sky. I think it'd be pretty cool to see that like on
that one is 8K
TV in like 8K. Yep. That'd be kind of cool just to see it
on a 30-inch 8K screen. That'd be great.
No, on like a massive 8K screen.
I feel like diminishing returns would kick in. Like there's a difference between 1080 and 4K, and look, I haven't seen 8K, so I'm only speculating, but I feel like the difference between 4 and 8K, man, you really need a big display to notice a difference at that point.
Yeah, and at that situation, it's the trick of comfort of gaming. You're going to have to sit way back to see everything, so why not just get a smaller screen at 4K?
Yep.
I think we're in the realm of resolutions, fine. It's more the quality of the screen itself, OLED versus QLED versus LCD or whatever at this point, so... that I think is more important than anything currently. Let's see. This one's from Mobeast Gaming. Says, feels like 8 times out of 10, everything Xbox does makes fans confused or question Xbox's method. As an Xbox fan, it's definitely a roller coaster. What would each Spawncast member do if they were in charge of the Series XS generation from the beginning to help Xbox bounce back?
I'd have to help. I was going to try to like sell something real quick and just bail, golden parachute out like most of them.
Saying just dump the whole thing.
Yeah, I got this. And just light the place on fire and just jump out the window.
I would have just not completely gave up on selling games, and just made Game Pass still just a complimentary thing, not my main focus and my main selling point. It would have just been an addition.
Agree.
That's what I would have done.
I would do the same thing. I would focus on what's made Xbox such a successful brand for such a long time, and that's making good games and good hardware. Everything else, the xCloud, the Game Pass, all the Fire Stick stuff, all this other crap, none of that stuff matters in the long run. You know, good games sell consoles, and I think ultimately that's what I would do. And I'd bring back the entire back compat catalog for the OG Xbox and 360.
I think
back compat, yeah.
The problem is that like Microsoft as a tech company, they want to see, you know, they make $1 bazillion, right, doing all sorts of stuff. So of course they want to see that money also being made in all sorts of stuff. So I think it's tough to just, you know, stick to. They got to show basically. Wasn't there like a meeting that Phil Spencer had like with the current CEO, and like he had to like save them if he didn't put together a plan that was going to be more multifaceted or something like that?
The story was he walked in trying to save Xbox, and he walked out convincing Nadella to buy Minecraft, which is like a $2.5 billion purchase. Which, I mean, it is credit. That's probably one of the best purchases they make. That end up making a lot of money for Minecraft still to this day.
But it's on everything. So
yeah.
That right there might have put the seed in his mind, like, well, we bought that. It's on everything.
Take it to other.
I think as soon as they bought Activision Blizzard, that was it.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. The moves that they've made, it's almost this was going to happen unless you go back and like you like kick Matrick in the face and like you just say stop and let's just do something different from this point on. Like let's just, because it started with that with the Xbox One, so it was almost impossible. But you know, as long as we get good games, I guess that's all that matters, right? As long as we hopefully get good games, that's all that matters.
It was. I mean, it's easy now looking back on it, hindsight, to like come up with something. Oh, they should have made the Switch, or like, you know, something like that. Like, oh, they should have tried the hybrid model, right? But
they should have made the Switch. How dare they?
Well,
yeah, back then I don't know. That thing would cost $3,000.
Yeah, no big deal, right, guys?
Blow up in your hands too.
Oh, cool! Can't wait. They should make something called the Dreamcast. I think it would sell really well.
Yeah, I mean, I think MVG is right though. Just good games.
Yeah, I agree. Right? I'm with that. Like, I just want to make sure I would have done the same thing. I agree with you guys. I would have definitely just tried to focus in on the games and make Game Pass a secondary thing and push it to other, you know, when you can, like mobile and all that. But definitely games would have been the focus.
All right. I think those are all the questions there that we had for the mailbag. Shout out to the Patreon members over there. Of course, you can sign up and drop your question or comment in, and we'll talk about it here on the show. All right, let's move over to Neil Druckmann. So I think at this point with Naughty Dog, people, of course, what happened with Factions 2 and the multiplayer, people have been concerned that it's going to be a long time before Naughty Dog shows up again with a game. But apparently, Neil Druckmann said on a live stream that, by the way, is gone now. So I don't know if that was something that he wasn't supposed to say, or I'm not sure. But of course, doesn't forget. And it turns out he said that they've actually been working, or he's been working on a game since 2020. He has complete creative control. But this seemed to surprise people. Celia, you could probably comment on this. Sony has control as to when it gets announced. Is that surprising to you?
Okay, sorry, I dissociated for a second. So for the new game, Sony has a decision of when it gets announced or not. That's
when it gets announced and marketing and stuff. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that definitely makes sense. Is Sony funding this game, or do they have exclusive contracts?
It's Naughty Dog. It's their studio.
Oh, it's Naughty Dog. Sorry, catching up.
He made a point that I can't tell you when it's coming out or when it's getting announced. Just that I'm working on it, and we've been working on it since 2020.
Because, with platforms for marketing beats, it's typically, in a large showcase or in a solely focused marketing beat. And for that, there's first to announce, there's release date, and it's out now. It's in the hands of what they're working with the platform. That makes 100% sense. So, yeah, we'll see it when it's ready. And that's kind of common practice, to be honest.
Well, he's kind of lining it up as 4 years ago. I've been working on it for 4 years now. I don't know what that means in terms of full scale production or something like that, but you feel like after 4 years, you'd be getting kind of close to making that announcement, just in general, to make that announcement, because Naughty Dog is after that Factions cancellation with the multiplayer stuff, they've been going through it. So I'm hoping that announcement is soon and that it's something. I don't think it's Last of Us Part 3. What do you guys think? What do you think Naughty Dog's position is here? What do you think their direction is with this next game? And do you think it's something we see next year?
No, I think when he says he's been working on it for 4 years, I think that means we probably had some initial sketches or something like that, and some foundational ideas and stuff like that. I don't believe the whole team was, whole team was working on it since then. Probably not.
4 years of building a pitch packet.
Yeah, I think maybe in the last 2 years at most, the whole production team has been on it.
Yeah, I agree. I think Naughty Dog, outside of these, one-off updates and stuff they do for their old games, I think Naughty Dog is a once-in-a-generation game studio now, where they make one game per generation, because they spend their entire duration to make that one game. And I agree with BG. I think it's not something we'll see anytime soon. I think it's probably going to be at the tail end of the PlayStation 5, which is probably in a couple of years from now, 3 years maybe. I don't know, 2 years, 3 years, something like that. But yeah, I mean, look at the PS4 with Naughty Dog. We got Uncharted and we got Last of Us Part 2.
Lost Legacy also, but that was half, it was a smaller game. Yeah. So
I just feel like they need the entire generation to get these games out now, because there's so much development that needs to happen. They've kind of set that bar really high with what they do and their games now, and that's what I would expect to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That multiplayer, man, that set them back.
I don't think it's sustainable for them though, because if you're somebody like, and their game, obviously Naughty Dog's games sell really well, regardless of how people felt about Part 2. But you're not you don't sell like Rockstar to me, making one game a generation, right? You can't making one game a generation, and even selling, if you do sell 20 million, I don't even think that's enough for one game in 8 years. That's nuts.
Not for how expensive the games are getting. I would assume their big grand new project. Some have said that there are games in development at Sony right now that are $400 million plus currently, that are just in development. So you think about that, and as you mentioned, one game a generation, MVG, 20 million copies sold. BG, it's
just
close.
To jump in. You can be a one game generation if the first party platform funds you. I just Googled because I was like, wait, hold on here. I'm like, I thought they were where are they getting their money from? And so Sony Interactive Entertainment, SIE, funds Naughty Dog, a first party studio. So that's how you do it. But I do agree they should get more games out. That'd be cool.
I mean, that's how you do it until they go, do we really need them anymore?
Well, it used to be that they would show up, right? The first party games would show up to help sell the hardware. By the time Naughty Dog shows up, they're going to be the way that they're selling now, where they're on the other side of the bell curve. They're going to be like, oh, let's do PS6 stuff. So do you start to think about their 2028 project as a PS6 game then?
Be ported to it.
Yeah, cross-gen.
Yeah.
I mean, look at Insomniac. Insomniac has got this down pretty good. Every 2 years, they kind of drop a new game. It's nothing the magnitude and scope of what Naughty Dog's doing, but Insomniac kind of gives us that constant, feed of new games every few years, right? So I think, Naughty Dog needs to figure out how to get to that point. But man, there's such, big storytellers there. They make these big, massive games with big stories and whatnot. And I don't know, I think anything that's kind of less in terms of scope over Last of Us Part 2, just doesn't really fly for them. But I do agree that they have to figure out a way to get to a point where they can ship multiple games in a generation without having the entire generation to make a game, which will probably be on the next hardware anyway, because that's the one that's going to run better on. You're right, the PS6 is probably going to run whatever they're working on right now much better than the PS5 does.
Yeah. Because something I've said about them is yes, when their games drop, there's nothing parallel to what they do in their game when it comes to attention to detail, right? It's very high quality. But I would be okay with them sacrificing some of that attention to detail if it meant cutting off some of that development time, especially when it comes. It's things that like the average person isn't going to notice or see or doesn't matter to the actual game. Like I think, for example, just to take it to Guerrilla Games, like I think like if you're in the desert in for Forbidden West, Aloy may start to sweat. I'm like, who cares? Like that's crazy detail. But like in the grand scheme of the of things, why does that matter? And I can only imagine how much time, like small stuff like that probably takes a lot of time. Like those minute small details that you'll get a lot of kudos and applause, but is it worth the amount of time you put in? And I'm just like, just certain things I feel like you could just skip out on.
I think Insomniac's pretty good at that, because if you play Ratchet and Clank, you might wander a little bit over here and you clip through the bush, like, or the plant, and it's like, who really cares that much?
John, I remember John was upset when you couldn't shoot the fruit in Halo Infinite. I remember that. A lot of very unhappy about
goddamn fruit.
That was what?
Remember Fruitgate? Halo Infinite?
I remember the
reflections and puddles and Spider-Man.
Yeah. You know, as bad as it is now, it's on Twitter. I miss those days. I'll take those days back.
Let's go back, please.
Let's go back.
No wrong.
Console wars were bearable now compared to what we got. Gosh. I will take that. At least we were talking about the games back then.
That's true. It actually, like,
bring the fruit cart back. Let's check it again.
It's funny, but it's like really true, man. Like, that's crazy.
Yeah. Maybe I'll get that kickstarted again, MVG. I'll find some random thing in a game and see if I can get that to go viral on Twitter so people actually talk about the game.
You can't make money off that, bro. You can't.
I'm on it.
You can't make the money that's being. You can't make the money that's being made. You know,
Puddlegate was pretty funny. I liked it.
Puddlegate was solid.
Puddlegate. Now, I think that was one of our over on Click R3. That was one of our like X gonna give it to you sections, or is Puddlegate. And I was like, I remember talking to Kofi and we had him on the show afterwards.
That was hilarious because I don't remember what I like mess with Kofi a lot. Like, so when he was getting attacked, I defended him, and then like halfway through when the internet was killing him, I just abandoned him. I was like, "You on your own. I'm not going to."
Goodbye. I was like, threw him under the bus and left him.
I was like, "You got to fight these people on your own. The internet is killing you, boy."
Oh man. Let's go over to, actually, you just brought up Guerrilla Games, BG. We did have a job listing for a release QA intern who will play a crucial role in pre-launch testing phase of an online project. The game is ready for launch in the first half of 2025. People believe that this may be that Horizon multiplayer game. And I do wonder, for the people who aren't as into Horizon, if the multiplayer game would bring them in. Because I have to assume you would create your own character for that. Like, it wouldn't be Aloy. And Aloy seems to be like a determining factor for a lot of people. If they like Horizon or not, she always comes up as like an annoying character. But I mean, multiplayer game next year. Who's in on Horizon with this? Who's playing?
This is going to be weird because the gameplay loop's basically just going to be Monster Hunter, right? So like that's just going to be the comparison. It's Mecha Monster Hunter.
I like Wild Heart. What was that game? Is that from EA? What was that called?
Wild Hearts.
Wild Hearts.
Well, it was Wild Hearts. Okay, I thought so. Yeah.
I mean, so this is one of the games as a service from PlayStation. I think will work. Obviously, Concord failed. Foam Stars was in collaboration with Square Enix. That sucked and that failed. I didn't have faith in either one of those. Helldivers was a success. There was something else that I think that they made that fail, but most of them were absolute failures besides Helldivers. I think this is going to be a success because, listen, in my opinion, that people dislike Aloy, but I think most people like the gameplay of Horizon, especially if it's just hunting.
And the world. The world's interesting.
If it's just in multiplayer or co-op, you're hunting monsters together, I think that'll work. I'm not a Monster Hunter fan, only because to me the gameplay is kind of slow and clunky. But from what I understand, Monster Hunter Online is pretty popular. Monster Hunter in general is really popular. So I think it'll be the things that people enjoy most about Horizon, what the fans enjoy most, and what the people who are not fans, I think they will be brought into it because it'll remove the things that they kind of don't like about the game. I just think it has a good chance of being one of the success instead of one of the failures.
Yeah, I'm picturing you going around with a bunch of people and you're like fighting any of the larger enemies and you're hitting them with arrows and stuff's falling off and you're collecting it to then craft armor or weapon. Like there's a gameplay loop that's already set up with the Horizon gameplay that I think translates well over to multiplayer. I'm thinking more logistically how they get that set up for online play where you're connecting with people in a world that should hopefully not crash or run, like it should run well. Yeah. I think you're right though. That I feel like has a pretty good opportunity to maybe even become more popular than just Horizon's recent offerings.
Yeah, because when I think about it, like when I see Monster Hunter gameplay, it's like people fighting some giant monster for like 25 minutes, something crazy.
Yes,
but
they're damage sponges.
Yeah, so I imagine it being something they have to. I think they have to do that because if it's going to be co-op, it can't be the same type of effort you have to put in when you're playing just a campaign. 1v1. These monsters are going to also have to be sponges, and it's going to have to take a lot more to take these monsters down. And I think that formula may work.
Yeah, I think this would be a good release for them next year, PlayStation 5, PC, and hopefully it doesn't lead to them continuing to beat down Horizon into the ground, like flood the market with Horizon. That's the one concern I have because they have a phone game coming for it too. So we'll see.
I do want to add, I know this is a little bit off topic and we're ending up here, but yeah, it looks like Shadow of the Erdtree definitely will probably get nominated. They just put out an update. And it says that all DLCs and all of that, remasters, remakes, all that stuff is eligible for all categories.
Really?
So, yeah, they just put that up. Wario64 just put up, and there was a FAQ, and it just says, "There's the announcement. The Game Awards aims to recognize the best creative and technical work each year, irrespective of the format of that content's release. Expansion packs, new game seasons, DLCs, remakes, and remasters are all eligible in all categories if the jury deems the new creative and technical work is to be worthy of a nomination."
They put that up for a reason.
Palworld and Erdtree.
Yeah, they put that in there for
a reason because they've never said that any other year.
They've never said this, but because of Elden Ring. That's the reason why.
So marking Shadow of the Erdtree, that's the definite fourth.
What did Last of Us Part 2? What did that get reviewed as?
That's a 90. That's a 9. That's also eligible now.
Oh,
interesting.
Okay.
Erdtree's got it.
Erdtree's got it. Yeah, Erdtree's gonna get a nomination.
He's all in on Erdtree now.
This is basically just so Erdtree can get a nomination.
I can't believe this.
Yeah, I know. They've never said this before.
I bring it up, and everyone's like, "Nah."
The fix is in.
Wait, I have a question about that. So if it's saying DLC, so like Genshin Impact, which like releases new DLC seasons constantly, can be considered every year as a potential for the Game of the Award. Like,
but they always slot that one into the what is it? The Games as a Service award. Basically, they just keep putting that.
Okay, so they would just
best ongoing. Is that what they call
best
it?
ongoing.
Yeah, but they did say factors such as the newness of the content and price/value should be taken into consideration. So they're giving themselves every single possible way to get in, get out. Like it's like
newness in the price.
Yeah, like it's so like okay,
the new car smell.
I mean, like they've done stuff like this before. Like when they changed did they change the dates when God of War was coming out, and then they had it like the cutoff date be a little bit later? Or am I misremembering that?
They've done that to a few games where the cutoff date that people know gets moved
played around
a
with the
little
cutoff
bit
date before.
Yeah, so like I don't know.
Cyberpunk? No.
It was
all
something.
I know is they messed up Jedi Fallen Order. I think that's the one they messed up.
No,
disgusting. Just missed that completely.
Just want to put that up. Sorry, guys. I know it's off topic, but just want to put that out.
No, that was great.
Yeah.
I hate to say it, Black Myth Wukong's missing. I don't think.
It's not.
I think that's getting bumped. Oh man, Erdtree's in.
Absolutely in now.
Yeah.
We have 4 picked then, right? Erdtree, Metaphor, FF7 Rebirth, and Astrobot. Those are 4 already done.
Not only 2 spots available.
And I got to have the awkward moments. So Silent Hill 2's in. And there's like one more.
It's got to be an indie game this year.
Yeah.
Cilantro.
Yeah,
It's 100%
oh,
cilantro.
man.
Like that's my
all-
prediction. That's what I'm envisioning.
Twitter's catching on fire.
Here's
Monday.
my conspiracy theory, and I'll make this quick too. Here's my conspiracy theory about Balatro and Animal Well, right around the same, both indie games, but they don't like a lot of the journalists. They don't like YouTubers. They don't like content creators. Donkey made that game, or that's his company. They say screw Donkey. We're gonna give it to Balatro instead.
But that's the thing. When I watch a lot of streamers and YouTubers, they're playing Balatro, not
Animal Well.
Yeah, so
but Animal Well reviews really well.
Self-hate for YouTubers and streamers.
Oh no, I mean it's the same
Like,
reason why Scott the Woz has never been nominated for. I mean, think about it. He's never been nominated. One of the biggest creators on YouTube by far. Never been nominated for a content creator of the year. So
okay,
that's
fair.
The category the Boogie one, right?
Yeah.
What?
Okay.
Yeah.
Dude, I need to pay more attention to the Game Awards. I'm realizing. Yeah, no, I don't, because I feel like for like Animal Well, like, you know, content creators aren't playing it as much because, you know, you play through the game and that's it, right? Like it's not like an ongoing thing like Balatro is. Sorry, I keep on wanting to call it like a different name. I used to mispronounce it. Sorry. But yeah, that's why I don't know.
Well,
never mind.
I have 4 comments from last week's Spawncast to go over before we end the show. I like to recognize our well-behaved comments, and the entire comment section is usually that, of course. I picked 4 of them. So we have Low Tech says the only constant. Oh yeah, I picked a couple positive ones before we get to the ones where they are not as nice. The Low Tech says the only constant is change, and this show is not exempt. Regardless of all the changes, I'm grateful this podcast is still going and giving me a reason to look forward to every Saturday. I may not comment every episode, but I'm constantly appreciative to everyone on the cast for showing up. Shout out to Low Tech. This was one of the top voted comments actually last week. So big shout out to Low Tech. And then Jana09 says, I started watching this year and I've never heard the panel devolving into bigotry. I want to thank you guys for that. It's a very low bar to clear, but I really appreciate it.
We try so
Thanks
hard.
for not being racist, guys.
The amount of times we've had Sean on and have had to re-steer him in different directions.
Oh my God.
Thanks for not being racist. I appreciate it.
I was gonna say, I read that comment. I was like, that's a all right.
You all in chat have no idea how much John is holding back. I'm just telling you.
Oh my God.
That's why John secretly likes Hulk Hogan. Don't worry. Secretly was cheering Hulk Hogan on. No, I'm joking.
I usually send Sean the meme where the people have like all the guys in the ring just beating up Hulk Hogan and like, here comes the pain.
That's the best one. That's good.
This is from Sal Mark, who says, LOL, John's sweating bullets talking about Dragon Age, except it's not a small blip. Literally infested game since 2015. And in 4 years, they will say, WTF were they thinking? I just still can't believe this game has so much attention when it's just so average.
It's good that these people feel so strongly about this game. You know, it's a good brand when people are just making most of their lives built around it. It's just,
it's the game itself is just, it's not good enough to warrant this much discussion, but I guess it's interesting and it stays in the news because of it. I don't know. I said it's a game that I feel like next year people will forgot even really came out this year, to be honest. It's just
Dragon Age game of the year. The fire from the internet moves into the real world. It's great.
Yeah. There's so much time spent on just such average. I don't know. It's just such a strange thing to me. Sketch says, if you have to spend multiple hours before a game gets good, then that game was never honestly good. Within the first 20 minutes, you better be having fun or the game is trash.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with that.
Things do need build up.
Some games
are
slow burns. They take a little bit longer to get into.
I will say 80 hours is a bit much, though.
I do 2 hours. That's okay. 2 hours is my cutoff.
Yeah, that's the Steam. What is it? Refund.
Steam refund. Yeah. You hit my refund rate. I'm kicking.
I'm a bit more lenient, depending on the type of game. I mean, sometimes RPGs take a while to really get going because you're going to be playing for a long time.
You just have the 3-episode anime rule, and you're just applying that to games.
Anime rule.
It's an hour and a half.
Okay, yeah, 3-episode anime rule where it's like you have to watch 3 episodes, and if it's not good by then.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't watch that many
I don't do
animes
that. I
after
watch
You don't
like
watch anime, but you play JRPGs?
No, I watch anime.
He doesn't watch that
I
many
believe.
animes. He doesn't go to filter into like all the ridiculous.
No, but I give it more than 3
set
episodes.
things.
Yeah, I give it more. Like I watch Fairy Tail for about 20 episodes, and I'm like, I think I'm okay.
Add another 0 to the end of that. Come on.
Yeah, I watched 3. And like, no, I'm kidding. I actually watched a lot of Fairy Tail.
So I do more than 3, but I mean, yeah. I mean, 20 minutes is not
usually
enough.
the rule, which is like the equivalent to like the Steam cutoff. Never mind. I was making a weeb joke. I'm missing on these.
There's so many options. There's so many options right now in games. People get flooded with stuff. I mean, how many games came out last year just on Steam alone? So it does feel like people just have that shorter attention span now versus back in the day when you came home with a game from the store and that was all you had. It's like you could spend 3 or 4 hours getting into it. But now it's like, if that doesn't work, I'll go to the next game on Game Pass. We'll bounce around. Well, I think that's everything there. Yeah, that is our show. Let me go around here because everyone that was on the panel is linked down below in the description. You got to check them out. We got BG Broken Games over on Weapon Wheel. We want to let them know where they can find you, sir.
Yeah, just my channel's Broken Games HDR. Weapon Wheel Podcast is on Sundays at 5 p.m. Check it out.
Yep, check them out. They'll be live tomorrow. Tomorrow late afternoon. We're talking about all kinds of stuff. They have a lot of
yeah.
Well, yeah. Well, what goes up today? Says yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yes.
I'm playing into it, even though everyone knows when we're recording now is Friday. But either way, check them out. Check them out. They have a lot of fun over there. And thanks for joining us, BG. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Let
me go to OJ.
Yeah, find me right here on YouTube, Player Essence. Got a bunch of cool stuff coming up. Neo Dimension, the Fantasian game. Neo Dimension's coming up, so we're going to be covering a lot of Dragon Quest 3 HD 2D remake recently, and RPGs and stuff. So yeah, Nintendo and RPG stuff. So if you're into that and live streams, check out the channel Player Essence on YouTube. Thanks for having me on.
Celia? Yep, gotcha. What about Celia?
Hi, you can find me on Twitter. I'm at Celia B. But you also can find me on Game and Talk on Wednesdays. Josie, RGT, and Nate and I have a little fun podcast, and I'll be working on a video for it. I just wrote a script. It'll be cool, hopefully.
Video's coming. Okay, yeah, you guys want to check that one out.
Working on it.
You told me what the idea was for it. I think it's very interesting. I have never seen a video like that before. So
okay, that's okay. It's intimidating.
No, the idea is you got to stick out on YouTube some way, and that is an interesting topic. It is. I've never seen it done before. So, MVG, sir.
Thanks for having me on. You can find me on YouTube at Modern Vintage Gamer. I have a video coming out on Monday, and that's about it.
You did a whole thing for the PS5 Pro as well. People should check out.
Yeah, I did a video on that last week. Check out the PS5 Pro impressions that I did. Still feel pretty much the same about it. But yeah, thanks for having me on, John. It's always fun.
And Evan, how you going? Are you getting close to 10,000 subscribers over on the channel?
It's slowing. It's trying to get more videos out though. We're getting close to 8K. But yeah, you can find me on YouTube and most socials at Kimmerix Project for tabletop stuff, tactics, things. We usually just hang out. I'll try to get some rules stuff going. There's going to be a pretty big drop technically today for when this gets released that I'm going to have to get some rules info for.
Okay, good stuff. Thanks everyone for joining us on this Saturday. We'll be back next weekend to do it all over again. We'll see you guys then.